Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to Career Fox TV. I'm Nancy Fox, the Career Fox, and here we are again today in another edition of the Career Fox, where you get to create a career a prosperous career doing exactly what you love. So today's session is going to be a little different. I am going to be talking about some strategic things and also some tactical things, and it's all about how to command your worth in your career. Now, today I'm mostly going to be talking to the women professionals and executives. The men are very welcome, but I'm going to be focusing a little bit about how things are different for the women as they choose to advance in their careers. And I'm going to be covering a lot of the strategy and the psychology around that, so that you can win the inner game as well as the outer game. And there are some distinctions between how women are caused to create their careers differently than men. And I think we have to. This is going to be a no BS session, so there's going to be the unvarnished truth about it. And I really believe that you're going to get some huge benefit out of really looking at things for what they really are and leveraging the kind of power that you never even thought that you had. So I'm going to be covering a lot about what it takes to really get ahead in your career and do it on your terms, and also how to command your worth even if you've never done that before. So I am going to touch today on some negotiating tools, and I will be doing some even deeper dives into specifically negotiating for your career, both in terms of getting a job, advancing your job, getting what you want in your career. And I'm going to be covering negotiation in more detail in future editions. However, today I'm going to touch on it. But I want to begin today with first I want to begin with some of the research that I've personally done. I mean, there's a lot of research out there around women and getting ahead in their careers and all of that. And one of the studies that was done by the Harvard Business Review was a study that was done about whether women, they compared whether women asked for salary increases as much as men. And they found that their study indicated that women asked equally to the men in terms of advancing their salary, increasing their salaries, but that they received them only 20% of the time, and men received them a greater percentage of the time. Now, I have to say that I sort of take exception with that research. In my experience, after coaching many hundreds of women over 20 years, it's been my experience that women rarely ask for increases, very compared to the men, and they rarely negotiate when it comes to salary when they are up for a job, whereas the men, it's more common for them to do it. Now, I realize that it's the Harvard Business Review, but I just want to say it just sounds like I was very surprised that their study indicated that women asked equally. I don't find that that's really true at all. So remember, I said I'm going to give you the unvarnished truth as I see it from my 20 plus years of experience in working with professionals and executives across many verticals. And also because I had a very lengthy corporate career myself, and went through a lot of the experience. And I worked in a male-dominated industry, and I was one of the few female. I actually worked for one of my most revealing experiences was working for a Japanese company with an American division, and I was one of two women in senior executive positions in the entire corporation worldwide. And it was a really big eye-opening experience to be working with that kind of male mentality. So I've had a lot of experience in this, but the first thing I want to tell you is a story. A woman who became my client came to me after this happened to her. She was up for the job of her dreams. She was in the pharmaceuticals industry. She was up for the job of her dreams. And she had gone through numerous interviews, and it was very promising. The recruiter told her that she was very likely to get the get the offer. And then all of a sudden, for about 2 weeks, she didn't hear from the recruiter, and she was starting to get uncomfortable, and she kept calling the recruiter, and she didn't get a response from the recruiter. And finally she did. The recruiter called her back, and she asked the recruiter what's going on, and she said, well, they're still interested in you, but there's been a little bit of a wrinkle. And she said, what's the wrinkle? And the recruiter said, a dark horse appeared, meaning another candidate came onto the scene. And the recruiter said, they want to hire you, but they want to hire you for a different position. And they gave her details about the position. The position they wanted to hire her for was one level below the position that she had been interviewing for. And so then she started to say, well, who's the dark horse? What's going on? And the dark horse was a man. And she said, okay, I don't understand what happened, why? And why is this man preferable to me? And the recruiter was pretty straight with her. The recruiter said that what the client told her was that when they asked her the question, we need to build a team in 90 days. We need these people on the team in 90 days. Can you do it? She said, she hesitated, and she said, this is what the recruiter told her that the client told her. And the client told the recruiter that she had replied, I'm not sure. It might take a little bit longer than 90 days, but I think so. That's what she told the client. And the dark horse said, of course I can do it. Now, of course, you can see the disparity. Now, I want you to know that I don't think the client really didn't. I think the client was looking for confidence, a confidence level in a candidate. And by the time the client came to me with this situation, she had already undermined herself. And women often do that. In other words, women really believe that they've got to they're so socialized and so programmed to believe they have to prove themselves first before they can earn anything, whereas men really believe that they are going to accomplish something and they don't have to prove it, that they're judged on their potential, not only on their accomplishments. They believe that they're going to be judged on their potential as well as accomplishments, and women only believe that they're going to be judged on their accomplishments. And that's a huge disparity, because when a company is looking to hire someone, they are also looking to hire not just skill, not just expertise, not just a background in education. They're really looking to buy confidence. They want to know that if they make a choice about you, that they can feel confident that you're confident. And if you're not confident, and they feel that from you, even if you do not say it specifically. Now, in this case, my client said that she already indicated that she was not confident about it, that she thinks so. And thinks so means I'm not sure. Whereas the man said, absolutely. Now, they were both hired. And of course, 90 days later, do you think that the guy actually had filled the team? No. But my client really had a whole different option available to her. She could have said, that is an ambitious goal, but I have never gone after something and not achieved it when I put my mind to it. And so she could have answered confidently. She could have indicated truthfully that when she puts her, and she would have. There's not a doubt in my mind that she would have accomplished this because she would have found the resources and the way to do it. Whereas the man said he would do it, and he didn't do it anyway. They were looking to buy confidence. So a lot of women, when I tell this story, a lot of professional women argue with me, and they say, well, no, nobody should ever say that they're going to do something before they do it, or before they have proof of it. And I say, no, that's not true. That is not true. That is a socialized, pre-programmed way of thinking of things, and it only sets you up for your own failure. So I really believe that if women really started to tap into their their really innate power and started to let that flourish and blossom, they would realize that they're so powerful and so competent. They always find a way. And there's really an interesting thing Richard Branson has said. When you're faced with a really daunting goal, say yes and then live into it. And he's lived by that philosophy his entire career. And I have to tell you that that's exactly the path that I followed in my own career. So many times I took positions that I had no experience for, and even in my business, I was engaged for assignments that I had no prior experience in, and I found a way. I grew into the jobs, I advanced into the assignments, and I succeeded. But it was always because I knew that when I make up my mind, I'm going to find a way. And that's what I want to share with you. When you make up your mind, you can start to feel the confidence building. You can start to cultivate that confidence within you to say, yes, I will, and then live into it. Getting ahead is 80% psychology and 20% strategy and tactics. And Tony Robbins has said this for years, and it is absolutely the truth, because if you don't win the inner game of your own mind, you can't win the outer game of your career. And too often you want, like even on this video, a lot of you want to hear strategy, tactics, and you want me to give you, the 10 steps or the 5 steps. And I am going to give you that today. I'm going to give you that to walk away with today. I'm going to give you 5 important steps for how you can actually win the inner game of negotiation. But before I get there, I wanted you to understand how powerful and how important it is for you to see the power of your own mind and the impact and the influence your prior conditioning is having on whether you get ahead or don't get ahead in your career. And I can promise you this, that a lot of people, particularly women, are resentful that men aren't giving them opportunities that they're giving men, and they're resentful of women not giving them opportunities that they're giving men. And I completely appreciate the resentment and the frustration. What I say you do about it is not to be resentful, but to actually do something about it. And I really believe the thing to do about it is to start teaching people, to start training them how to treat you, how to regard you, how to interact with you, and how to work with you in your career the way you want to be worked with. And so that means you have to start commanding your worth. Almost none of the women that ever come to me have ever had any background training in how to command their worth, how to require people to treat them properly. They put themselves last on the list, and they put everybody else in their company, in their careers first. They overwork, they get undercompensated, and it doesn't have to be that way. So I'm going to give you some tools around that. But the first thing I really want you to know is you must go to work on your own mindset. And I'm going to leave a link in the comments below for a very special free training that I've done, a masterclass that I've done just to show you the 5 crucial steps that all successful professional women make in order to command their worth and get ahead on their own terms, okay? And I'll leave you the link for that. And it's a very powerful training, very specially created, so that you can really start to see where you have been leaving power, money, influence, respect, appreciation, and a better lifestyle on the table because you just didn't know how. So let me talk to you a little bit about how to gain greater impact and influence. And sometimes, we talk about this in like negotiation terms. And I love negotiating. I just think it's the most fun thing. I think it's a game. I didn't go to school for negotiation. I didn't get official classes in it, but once I navigated the corporate world and I went into my own business, I started to do a lot of research and studying around it. And some of the people that I really love to follow are people like William Ury, who is a co-author of the Getting to Yes. And there are a number of people. I'm going to post them. in the links below, some of the people that I follow around negotiation. There's Margaret Mead, I think her name is. She's wonderful. And other people, other folks who have really done a great job giving us some really excellent tools for negotiation. But over the years and in the various negotiations that I've made, and by the way, I want to give you an example of a negotiation that I had with a male client, which was absolutely hysterical. First of all, I was introduced to a managing partner of a major firm through a client of mine who was a senior partner in the firm. I'd worked with him for about 6 months, and he introduced me, and we were talking about how he'd like to bring more of that to his company. He introduced me to we set up a lunch, and we went to lunch, and the managing partner did something that was very poor negotiating. If he was going to negotiate, he said, I'm gonna hire you. Right at lunch, he said, I've made a decision, I want to hire you. I said, cool, great, I'd love to work with you. He said, all we have to do now is just negotiate the terms. I said, okay. So now remember, I had a client who was sort of my godfather in the deal. We went back and forth, and I gave him my first proposal, and he said, no, it's too this, it's too high, and I went back and I gave him another tweak on it. Listen, this was going to be an amazing relationship, so I knew that this was not just a one-shot deal. So it was the leverage. He had leverage in that he knew I wanted to work with them, and on the other hand, he had already made up his mind that he wanted me, so I had that leverage too. So we went back and forth 2 or maybe 3 times, and at the third time, before I sent the third version of the proposal, I reached out to my godfather and I said, hey, listen, I can see this getting to be annoying for so-and-so, for the managing partner. Before I do the next tweak, I said, what's missing here? He said, there's nothing really missing. He said, I think he's getting stuck on the fact that you're proposing it by the month. He wants you to propose it by the person. I went, oh, and the reason is the managing partner was used to assessing how much each person in the firm was worth to the firm in terms of revenue, profit, and all that. So because I was giving it to him in terms of how I was used to charging by the month and doing it by the package of how many months I wanted to work with the firm, he was looking at it by the person. And when we calculated out how many people he wanted me to work with, and I sat down and I figured out what it was going to be per person, at the end of the day, I wound up making more money. He didn't realize it because he got what he wanted. He just wanted the numbers by the person. And I charged what I wanted. I just gave it to him by person, and he wound up paying more. So he didn't realize it, but the thing is, I was able to get into his psychology, and he needed to have it his way. Understand? Like, he needed to win it his way. He wanted what he wanted, but he wanted it in his language. I just gave it to him in his language, and I wound up making more money. So negotiation is really, I want to give you the 5 different ingredients that go into any negotiation. And these are essential. But I want to say one thing that I've learned about negotiation, and I really understand that there are different methodologies and different techniques and different perspectives and approaches to negotiation. What I've come to understand is just like dieting and weight loss, everybody's body chemistry is different. So maybe the South Beach diet would work for me, but for you, Weight Watchers is better, right? And it's the same thing in negotiation. With every negotiation, there is a unique chemistry to it. And there are some very unique aspects to each one. So let me go through the elements, the ingredient. It's still a cake, right? But there are different maybe ingredients in each cake. So I'm going to give you my ingredients, and I'm going to tell you how I look at this and how this could really impact whether you're negotiating for your next job, whether you're negotiating to get a promotion or a salary increase in your current job, whether you're negotiating with your neighbor to have them stop their problematic dog, doing their business on your lawn, whatever it is, I want you to really understand that there's a different chemistry to every single negotiation, but there's always going to be, certain ingredients in the cake that have to be there. The first thing is, I want you to know that every negotiation is won on the inner game first and then on the outer game. I know it doesn't look like that. You want me to give you a tactical say this, say that, say this, say that. And I can give that to you. And there will be a script for you coming. But for now, I want you to know the ingredients first. So first, you have to decide what you truly want in this negotiation, right? And a lot of times you go into a negotiation saying, I don't want that, instead of I want this. Like, for example, a lot of women will say to me, I don't want to be disrespected anymore, or I don't want to be talked over in meetings. And what they really need to be saying is, I want to be heard. I want to have what I say be heard and have value. Very different, right? And then you have to really, the second part of ingredient number one is you have to decide how bad you want it. In other words, if you want an extra week's vacation, you want 4 weeks instead of 3, maybe you want it, but you don't really want it that badly. But you do want to ask for it. But when it comes to you having direct reports, you really want that badly. You need and want to have that on your roster of responsibilities, accountabilities, and accomplishments. So it depends on how bad you want it. You have to decide how bad. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad do you want it? 10 being most, 1 being least. Really get clear about it. If it is not an 8, 9, or a 10, you are not going to have as much leverage in your negotiation. I can promise you that. The more you want it, the more badly you want something, the more skin you're going to put in your own game of it. The second thing is you have to decide your own leverage factors, and you have to assess the leverage factors on the other side. So in this case that I gave you about the managing partner and this assignment, the engagement that I was discussing before, I think that my leverage factor was probably about an 8. It wasn't a 9 or a 10. I think he wanted it. I think my leverage was an 8 because I already was proven with the senior partner, and the managing partner liked me, and when he likes people and he's a fast decision maker, it was around an 8. I don't think it was a 9 or a 10. I could get to 9 or 10, but it was an 8. And I think that was my leverage factor. His leverage factor, of course, was 9 or 10, right? Because, hey, listen, his firm was going to go on without me, but he really wanted to, he wanted to bring in some professional development into his firm. He knew it would look good for his firm. He knew his people would benefit from it. So I would say that his leverage factor was higher than mine, but I was still around an 8. Then we get to ingredient number 3, which is the psychology of the players. Now, the first thing I want you to notice is I did not say the psychology of the adversaries or the combatants or the opponents. I said the psychology of the players, because as soon as you put the word adversary, opponent, it's like it becomes your enemy. You have a different psychology around the negotiation. I like to think of a negotiation as 2 sets of players. It makes me feel good about being on an equal playing field, and I like the fact that it becomes a game, not a war. And so I think the mentality of that I think it gives a good feeling to the whole experience of it. And the psychology, so when someone comes to the table with a particular psychology, if I'm negotiating with someone, she happens to be a woman, she has been trained to think and sort of battle things out like a guy, and is going to be adversarial with me in a negotiation and wants to show that she's not going to be a pushover female in the negotiation. That's one psychology, right? And if I'm working with somebody who's another player on the opposite side of the table, who is someone who likes to make peace, who who doesn't like confrontation. It's a different psychology. And then there are the people who like the war itself. They like the fight. They enjoy the fight. And if you don't give them a fight, they're annoyed. And they're just going to keep escalating things. They're going to be, those are the kinds of people who like to go point by point and fight for every single point to feel the win. They're sort of addicted to the battle, not even having a happy outcome. Sort of interesting, right? So you really got to know the psychology of your player on the other side of the table. And I think a lot of that came to me in that example I shared with you through the Godfather that I had, right? I did a lot of question asking about the psychology of the managing partner. And he knew him very well, so it was a great background. I knew exactly he liked to make decisions really fast. He didn't like to be wishy-washy. He liked strong personalities. He liked women. He was very pro-women. It was all really interesting. It was a whole psychology around this. And so I really invite you to start to learn the psychology of the player you're going to be interacting with in a negotiation. And when you understand that person's psychology, you've got to look at your own psychology. Where do you back away? Where do you hide? Where do you give up on your own confidence? Where do you not command your worth? What are you willing to do to shore up your own strength in areas that where are you willing to be uncomfortable? And where are your blind spots? Ask for help around that. The fourth ingredient is you've got to learn to language the irresistible ask. The words you choose matter. When you use warring words, when you use certain words, they're going to escalate the anxiety and the negative energy in a conversation. But when you use questions, for example, questions are a fantastic way of employing a forward movement in a negotiation. So for example, if you're negotiating for, being hired in a company, and they'll say something like, well, we have salary levels and we can't go beyond that. A question that you might ask, I appreciate that. Not I understand, I appreciate that. I'm curious, why is that? Why is that? And why would a company that really wants a candidate not flex the guidelines sometimes in order to get the right people in the company? Why is that? And the why or the how really open up dialogue so you can start to hear their thinking. You can start to even hear where there are chinks in the armor, right? And it opens up questions are a fantastic way to gain leverage in any negotiation. But the languaging, a lot of times I'll use the word, well, perhaps we would, or supposing we. And I don't say could we. I'm using a different word, supposing we. Consider this. And these are firm words with possibility attached to the end of them, not closing the door. See the words I'm choosing? So the choice of words can be very, very helpful in moving the negotiation forward. Finally, the last ingredient is you've got to be ready to receive. I think so many people, particularly women, want and are untrained in how to receive. They are uncomfortable with receiving. They're uncomfortable with receiving compliments or receiving gratitude or receiving praise or receiving, they don't even know how to accept more money, or they're really not even ready to receive it on the inside. They want it, but they're not ready to receive it. So it almost seems unattainable to them, and when it actually comes toward them, they're almost not ready for it. So you really have to analyze, are you really ready to receive? What kinds of resistance are you putting in your own way that stops you from receiving what you're really worth and what you're due? And a lot of women really have trouble with that. They really have trouble. They have trouble receiving assistance or collaboration. It's just a programming. We've been programmed differently than men for for decades and decades. And even though we've had this movement of really elevating women for, since the 1960s, we're still so far behind. And we have such a long way to go. But learning how to command your worth is something that women should be learning way earlier in their careers, in college. It should be taught in college. You should be learning negotiation in college. You learn how to interview for the job and apply for the job and write a resume. You never learn how to command your worth once you get the job. You never learn how to negotiate on behalf of yourself once you get the job, or even in the job application process. These are really big missing pieces. And so I really want you to have them. And as a starting point, I want to invite you to attend my free masterclass, the 5 crucial steps that successful women must take to command their worth and really get paid what they're worth. So I'm going to leave the link in the comments below. I hope you've gotten a lot of value out of today's session. It's a little longer than I usually do, but there's a lot to share with you. And this is just the beginning. I have a lot more to go because there were so many different facets of really grappling with commanding your worth. And I want to have a lot to share with you that I've gained over a very long career in working in corporate America, and now over 2 decades of working with really, really successful women and helping them advance their careers and create careers that they really love doing, really prosperous ones, getting what they deserve, and enjoying the kinds of lifestyles that they also deserve. All right, that's it for me today. I'm Nancy Fox, the Career Fox. So I'm glad you've been with me today. Love your comments. Hit the subscribe button, please. Share this with your friends, your colleagues. Let them know that this kind of training exists for them. This kind of collaboration and education exists for them. And I'm here for you to answer your questions. By the way, you can find me on LinkedIn as well, and I'll post that link as well. And I have a special Facebook group, free Facebook group as well, which is, I'll leave the link for that, which is called Command Your Worth, and it's for motivated, ambitious, aspiring women who want to command their worth in their careers. All right, you guys, see you next time. Nancy Fox, the Career Fox. Bye-bye.